Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Flying and Eating. Today, let's go somewhere and do something, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Hey guys, it's Adam here. Good morning, how you doing? On today's adventure, what we're doing is we're actually here in Chicago, and we're going to grab a flight out to Detroit. Now, Detroit's a great city. I'd love to do a full video on it, but today's not that day. We're actually going there for one very specific purpose. I'm going there to film footage of a very specific thing I need for a video I'm working on. So really, this is almost to be thought of as the behind the scenes or maybe a teaser for a bigger video that is coming. But this was just kind of something I thought we could have fun with. But where it gets even weirder, not only am I only there for a few hours before I come back to Chicago today, same exact day, tomorrow we essentially repeat this, but instead of going to Detroit, we'll be going to Dayton, Ohio for exactly the same purpose. Get some specific footage and head right back. So let's see what kind of adventure we can have in the meantime. So again, just think of this as kind of a teaser or perhaps a behind the scenes of a much bigger video.
All checked in. Obviously, I get to skip the security lane. Let's go over to clear because that is what you should do.
Just went through security, no real problems, but interestingly, the clear lane, stunningly long. I mean, TSA pre-check line was also extremely long, and regular security was very long. I've just never seen the the clear lane like backed up. It still took only like 5 minutes, but as opposed to the normal 30 seconds, that was just kind of shocking.
Anyway, so we have some time on our hands before we go. I want to eat something because I don't even know if I'm going to have the chance while I'm out in Detroit. Sadly, I'm going to miss out on Detroit-style pizza, which, believe it or not, I would do. So you guys know what's happening. United Club.
But anyway, so I didn't get a chance to really read it or anything.
You're officially in Detroit at DTW. This is a big Delta hub. United has almost no presence here. They don't even have a club here, so none of that, unfortunately. We're just going to go streamline it straight to our destination. So while this is not my first time in Michigan, not even close, I do think it's actually the first time in Michigan in the history of this channel. So what did we come all the way out here for? This, the Henry Ford Museum. We're going to go inside and I'm going to show you guys some oddities, some things that will be references to previous videos that they actually keep stored here, which is kind of interesting. And I came here for one very specific reason, but we'll show you that later. So this is my first time in this museum ever. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just cars that they have here, it's the Innovation Museum. So there's a bunch of technical and electronic history as well, and a lot of unique artifacts, some of which I was kind of shocked to learn are here. So I can't wait to show them to you. Upon first entering, after you purchase your ticket, you will see a whole bunch of vehicles and things, planes, cars, obviously. So let's go take a look at some of this stuff. Right here we have the infamous Reagan limousine. This one was fascinating because this was the car used by President Reagan during his term. I believe Jimmy Carter also used this car initially. I think it was actually created under the Nixon administration, but what's fascinating about this one in particular is that when the attempted assassination of Reagan happened in 1981 in Washington, this was the door he was shuttled into really quick after he was shot. There's actually still a dent on the car as a result of that. They never actually fixed it, kind of intentionally to mark the history of it. But yeah, this is what vehicle that happened in. And of course here it's hard to find a more infamous presidential vehicle than this one. Believe it or not, what you're looking at is the JFK car. This was the one that was in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963, where the assassination occurred. President Kennedy sat right here in that seat at the time of the shooting. Now the bubble top had actually been removed, of course, but this is the one you see in all the footage. This is an infamous piece of history, and the fact that it's just sitting here in this museum, that is amazing. In its continuing world tour of random Kennedy stuff, the Sega Pluto has now been to the car, because why not? You guys know I like my presidential history. Well, here's another one. This one's nowhere near as infamous as the JFK car, but this would be the 1950 Lincoln, but used by President Dwight Eisenhower, which of course is the president right before John F. Kennedy. Yeah, just cool that they actually have this on site. That's very, very neat. You might be wondering, like, why does this museum have so many of these infamous presidential cars? One, it's a car museum, which makes sense, but also, more accurately, back in the day, a lot of these cars were not actually owned by the president or the White House more specifically. They were on loan because of how ridiculously expensive they are. I know that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of the time the federal government didn't actually own these cars, and so they were basically licensed out. So in the case of the JFK car, and probably the others, they were essentially given back when the lease was up, and this is what the Ford Motor Company chose to do with them.
This one here we have is Franklin D. Roosevelt's car. So, man, FDR rode in this thing. That's just crazy. Awesome. The Sunshine Special. Oh, this is a cool one. We got Teddy Roosevelt's, not car, but carriage. That's cool. I was not expecting to see that today. Wow, neat. So let's focus on stuff that isn't just presidential vehicles, right? Well, this is representing my town, Chicago, because we poisoned the world with McDonald's. Sorry about that. But yeah, they have a nice like old-timey sign. I doubt this is from the original location, but I guess it wouldn't surprise me. Sadly, the original location that we built in Des Plaines no longer exists. I mean, technically the California locations were first, but the modern version of McDonald's came out of Des Plaines, which used to exist. I used to see it all the time, but unfortunately it no longer does. I don't know if this sign in particular came from that. It wouldn't shock me if it did. But yeah, they have a homage to fast food, I guess. There's also a White Castle sign, A&W root beer. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this museum is more than just cars. There's a bunch of random stuff in here. Obviously, well, you can see it for yourself. There's a bunch of buggies and carriages. I mean, this is one of those museums where you can kind of get lost in it for a very long time. Lots of cool stuff. Ford, of course, their corporate headquarters is here, so that makes sense. But yeah, they also have a lot of stuff from Delta, because Delta uses this place as a hub. Yeah, this is, I don't know if that's like one of the World War II era planes. That might be, because for a couple of years during World War II, Ford stopped making cars and they were just making planes. That might be one of them. Not really sure. So obviously they have a bunch of early type of cars, early type of vehicles that people were getting around in when you were still kind of morphing out of the buggy, the horse buggy and carriage to like the motor vehicle, a motor car. Once they started doing that. But I'm not a big car guy, but it's still pretty cool to see these. I will admit the only cars that ever get me kind of interested are either historically infamous ones, like the JFK car and other things like that. But the one car I have a huge soft spot for is just a model of car. I will admit freely is the DeLorean, but that's also because, you know, Back to the Future. But yeah, lots of cool stuff around here to see. Volkswagen Bugs, at least even I know that one. But yeah, obviously tons and tons of cars. This is definitely one of those places where you can get lost in this museum for hours, I would think, which unfortunately we don't have that many hours, but I will do my best to show you stuff. And it's kind of cool to see the timeline too, like in real person, because I remember as a kid, you know, obviously these are predate my time, but as a kid, I thought of old cars as like that, like a 1950s era, 1960s era type of car. And I remember stupidly as a child asking my mom, when did cars go from that to like that? As if there's just a day they chose. It's just the natural evolution of timelines. So you can kind of see we're catching up to the 80s here, and then you move onward to modern designs. Everything just kind of changes and evolves, but I guess you guys probably already know that. Again, I'm not a huge car guy, but I think the Hudson Hornet, which is what this is the car that was the inspiration for that retired old race car in the movie Cars, the Disney one. I'm pretty sure that that's correct, but I guess I'm not 100%. They also have tons of trains around here. I'm even less of a train guy, so I couldn't tell you if any of these are specific, like, or if they're famous for any sort of reason, you know, maybe like a train that, you know, Teddy Roosevelt crossed the country in for his campaign. I have no idea if they have anything like that. Oh, this is like the Cruella de Vil car. That's cool. The Bugatti. All right. Yeah, there are random ones. It would not surprise me if there's more infamous cars, but I'm in a little bit of a rush, so I'm just kind of showing you guys some glances at stuff. But some of these would not shock me if they were like famous for some reason or another. But yeah, unfortunately I just don't have a whole lot of time to show you everything. We'll just kind of do a glance, but this is definitely a museum, guys, that you should definitely come out to. It's $30 admission. Totally worth it. A lot of really cool stuff here I was not expecting to see. See, one of the things that's interesting about this museum is it's not just about cars, as I keep mentioning. It's kind of about they call it the Innovation Museum. There's kind of a logic to that. This is what they're kind of going for here, is this is how America evolved socially and culturally in the form of vehicles and presentation. So obviously you have hotels, but they even show like this is how, you know, hotels evolved in the United States and what the average room would look like, and how the concept of planning a vacation and the American family doing that on a regular basis. That's interesting. I never really thought about it that way, but I'm glad somebody's kind of, you know, respecting the history of not only physical transportation in forms of vehicles, but the infrastructure around transportation as a sign. You know, I think that's neat. So they also have a lot of aircraft in here, a lot of early aircraft, which makes sense. Like this is the Kitty Hawk Flyer, the original Wright brothers plane. This is not the actual one. This is a replica. The original is in Washington, D.C. But it's interesting to see that they do take a little bit of an attempt at the aviation stuff, though their focus very clearly is cars. But it is worth noting because, again, the point of the museum is about technological innovation. And, of course, we must acknowledge that Ford themselves was making planes for a few years. It makes sense that they would include some of this. But it leaves something to be desired. You know, there might be better aviation museums out there. Might. Now this section I'm not too sure about. It says with liberty and justice for all, which looks like American history stuff. So they've got this Lincoln thing happening here. I mean, I guess this is just kind of a generic history of the United States. I'm not really sure. I'm going to kind of, yeah, I guess it is. It's about the 13 colonies, the Boston Massacre, the Tea Party, all that stuff. We'll see if there's anything else worth noting in here. So here we have something called a combination portable writing desk and copying press from 1787. So they're effectively not saying this is the one, because the year would be definitely wrong, but this is the basic type of thing that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence on, which is interesting. They don't have the actual one. I don't know if anybody does, but it's cool to see that that's the kind of thing it would have been written on. And of course, here is a replica of the Declaration of Independence. Again, just a replica. The real one is is in Washington D.C. at the National Archives. But cool, just, you know, rundown of history, I guess, in case you don't want to go to the ones in D.C. This is just kind of like, yeah, you're already here, learn something about America. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of, like, original stuff here, which is fine. Again, that's not really their focus. Okay, this is baller. This is the chair that Abraham Lincoln was actually assassinated in. This is the one that was at Ford's Theater, which if you just saw the DC video is kind of insane because we didn't even go to the museum, but we went to Ford's Theater. And that means this place, by the way, has the chair that Lincoln was shot in and effectively has the chair that Kennedy was shot in because they have the car. Wow, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea why this chair is here instead of the Lincoln Memorial across the street from where he was shot. Why is it here? It's not even in the one in Springfield. It's the random one in Dearborn, Michigan. I guess it's one of those things where a lot of these things just end up because somebody cared enough to put it there. Yeah, you can see a bunch of random technology there, and they show a lot of the inventors. Like they showed George Washington Carver, the guy who invented peanut butter and all that. Yeah, this honestly, I wish I had more time because this museum is ridiculously big and has a lot of really cool stuff in it. Oh man, I do see what I think I see. That's an Oscar Mayer Weenie Mobile. So around it they have a bunch of like farm equipment and stuff. I don't know why the Oscar Mayer Weenie Mobile is like hidden back behind the farm equipment, but that's really cool to see. Imagine being an Autobot or a Decepticon that had to change into that. That would be something. I'm going to keep exploring, see if there's anything else I can kind of show you as a highlight here before I got to go. This section is largely about the United States in the 20th century, the American century as it's often referred to. So they kind of just go over everything really quickly. Some pop culture things, Hollywood souvenirs, as it were. The infamous War of the Worlds broadcast, which is a hilarious story that Orson Welles kind of put on people. People sitting there listening to this story of alien invasion, believing it's true. 1950s pop culture. Yeah, this is just interesting to see. All this stuff, and of course the Vietnam War, President Johnson deciding not to run for another term. There's so much to the American century, as it's always called, that it's crazy. Ooh, look, we got video game stuff. There's Pong. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, it's the Atari 2600. There you go. Perfect. The innovation of video games as technology advances, of course. We got Game Boy. I'm not sure if those are Jordans specifically, but, you know, the Jordan brand shoes eventually taking over. Even I know this. Born in the USA is the first music CD ever pressed. Obviously, Apple computers and technological innovation, the fear of Y2K, all sorts of stuff here. Ooh, some of the landfill Atari 2600 carts. That's cool. As you can see, the Alamogordo ones that were dug up, that's a whole story in itself. Infamous history about Sesame Street and various toys, and yeah, pop culture just absolutely changed over the course of the 1980s, and then leading into future innovation and so on and so forth. And there's the 90s. Let's take a look at the 90s real quick here, shall we? We've got rollerblades, Game Boys, IMAX. It's really weird to see like a PS1 in a museum like this, especially being a video game guy, knowing that most of this stuff is like the commons. Well, not the Pokemon games, I guess, but it's just funny to see all the same. Found it, don't know how I missed it. It's right here at the beginning. So you have the presidential cars over there and all that stuff over there. This is the signature of Thomas Edison put into concrete, cement, and a shovel placed in it. So as he is considered one of the founders of modern day technology and basically an American hero. So that's pretty cool that they have that. So this is cool. This bus is more significant than I thought. This is the actual Rosa Parks bus. If you don't know your history of who Rosa Parks is, shame on you. But in long story short, she was a woman and black woman who refused to go to the back of the bus in a time of segregation. Basically, it was a huge leap forward in civil rights. It's a whole big story, but this is the actual bus in which that occurred on. That's really cool to see. So you can actually go inside the bus, and right here would be the actual spot where she sat, which is just, it's really cool that you guys let people come in and see this. Thank you.
Well, when we got the bus, it was empty inside, and the Henry Ford looked at, did we want to keep it that way, or did we want to restore it? And the thought is, we want people to be able to come in and sit here and experience what Rosa did.
And I think I will do exactly that. I'm going to take a seat right here.
So we hope people will come in and will experience it.
This is surreal. You're just sitting in this extremely significant piece of American history right now. And it's just sitting here. Anybody can come check it out. That's really cool. Thank you guys for what you do.
Oh, well, thank you for coming and visiting us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that lady was really cool. She was willing enough to obviously tell me all about the bus and everything, but also kind of making the point that it's like people come here. This was my own bad too. Everyone comes here thinking it's just gonna be a car museum, but it's not. And she said the whole goal is to try and show general American progression of technology and innovation, which is funny because that's what I said. It seems like that's what they're doing. Mission accomplished. It's just too bad more people don't seem to know about this one, probably just due to its location. And she was totally right. Like with Ford being right here, everybody just, and Henry Ford's name being on it, you just assume this is a car museum. It's much more than that. Check it out. So believe it or not, we're actually done here now. So it's time to actually, I'm not kidding, we're heading back to the airport and going back home to Chicago. No joke, we're already back at DTW. I told you. I've already checked in for my flight, which interestingly, the flight wasn't until 6, but there's actually one leaving at like 2:30. And they're like, you're kind of early. Do you want us to put you on standby for that one? Yes, I do. We can get home earlier than anticipated. Fortunately, as you can see, there is a clear lane here, so we are definitely going to make use of that. Through security, no problems at all. So now we're just going to head onto the gate and wait, and then I'm assuming we're just going to eat lunch when we get back to O'Hare. Okay, so we're actually back in Chicago. It's only been a few hours. For real, this whole thing happened. So obviously I haven't eaten yet. I'm gonna go over to the club lounge and have lunch, and then I'm gonna go home, and then I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow when we do this all again, going to Dayton, Ohio.
And that'll do it for part 1. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, I had intended for this to all be one video, but it ended up being too long and kind of did insufficient justice to the places I wanted to go. So I thought, let's let it breathe. So there will be a part 2. Just wait for that, in which we, of course, go to Dayton, Ohio, and I'll show you something very special. So thank you very much for watching this. In the meantime, if you guys do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, and check out all the social media stuff in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.